Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Mastering Midlife, How to Thrive When the World Asks the Most of You. I am your host, Mark Silverman. Today, I have Mort Fertel on the show today. I'm so excited about this, but in doing the research for this, I got more and more excited about the content and what we're going to be talking about. Mort is a leading authority on the psychology of relationship. He has a global reputation for saving marriages. He's the creator of Marriage Fitness, a relationship renewal system that has saved millions of couples from marital crisis. He also authored a book called Marriage Fitness, The 4 Steps to Building and Maintaining Phenomenal Love. He's here today to share his proven strategies for creating a fulfilling and successful relationship. Mort, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And the reason I got so excited was, one, because of the soundness of everything that you teach. I'm really careful to bring people to the audience who I really find what they have to say resonant and useful. And I was really impressed with what you had to share with the world. Can I ask a quick question? Is why do you do this? What made you throw your whole entire life into helping people save their marriages?
So those are actually 2 different questions, which if you don't mind, I'll answer them separately. The answer to the first question of why I do this is very simple. I do this to be useful. That's my mission here on earth, I believe. I think that's true for all of us, not just for me. But I feel very passionate about that. And I think we're here for a purpose. We're here to serve. We're here to help each other. I ask myself every day, sometimes multiple times a day, am I being useful? How am I being useful? Who am I serving and how? Despite what all of the companies that are selling us all kinds of stuff want us to think, our mission here is not to consume as much as we can consume and to experience as much pleasure as we can experience. I just don't think that's why we're here. I think we're here to be useful to each other. And I do this because people tell me it's useful to them. and I'm foolish enough to believe them, so I keep doing it. I really want to be useful. When my head hits the pillow at night, that's really what determines how I sleep. If I feel I've been useful to people and to the world, then I sleep very well. And if I feel I haven't been useful, which thank God is not very often, then I have trouble. So that's why I do. How I got into it, I actually come at this from a very personal place, as opposed to most, marriage experts. I experienced my own marital crisis a number of years ago, many years ago. And my wife and I were horrified with the type and the quality of help that was available to us. Everywhere we reached out to, whether it was a person or a book or something, everybody was asking us what was wrong. And it focused us on our problems. And the argument went from the kitchen table to their office or, about some exercise in a book, but it was all negative. It was all about the problems, the issues in the past. And we found that just brought us down further and further and made our situation even worse and made us feel worse. What really succeeded for us was putting aside temporarily the past, the problems and the issues, and instead of trying to fix what was wrong, make new things right. And when we did that, it was transformative.
I got goosebumps with that. That's innovative. Wow.
And that at the core is the key to turning around the marriage. And most of the world is missing it. Everybody wants to ask what's wrong and try to fix the problem. And it doesn't work. You can just Google the success rates, or I should say failure rates of marriage counselors and therapists. It's horrific. And this is why, because there are a number of fundamental flaws to the whole methodology. I just mentioned one of them. And that's really one of the things that's unique about the marriage fitness system, is that instead of focusing on what's wrong and in the past, we focused on making new things right and moving forward. And the system works.
That's just brilliant. I'm almost speechless, which almost never happens. But so you talk about one of the themes is, did I marry the wrong person? And you say that you're looking in the wrong place if you're asking that question.
Yeah, the key to succeeding in marriage is not finding the right person. It's becoming the right person. And it's learning to love the person you found. Those are similar ideas. The idea, what I'm getting at with that sort of often repeated and popular line, what I'm really getting at there is that marriage is just like anything else in life. It's like shooting a jump shot. It's like arguing a case. It's like performing a surgery. There's a way to do it. There is a way to do it, and there's a way not to do it. And when it comes to a jump shot, arguing a case, performing a surgery, we understand that, right? If you want to be good at basketball, you have a coach. If you want to argue a case, you go to law school. Like, nobody would think to do these things at any level of competency without first acquiring a level of knowledge and really practicing. For whatever reason, which we can discuss if you want, it's mind-boggling, we think that relationships and love just is. It just should happen easy. It should be natural. We even say sometimes you have to be lucky in love. There's all these expressions. Love is a mystery. Sometimes people will say to me, if I have to work so hard, there must be something wrong. And I say, really? Really? Are you sure that's true? Like, can you point to me anything else in your life that you're good at that you would say that about?
Right. And we all lament our parents' marriages, right? So the place where we learned, we talk about that. We didn't learn anything good. So now what, right?
Right. Right.
You know, I have all these pithy lines that I took from your videos because I was really fascinated. It's like, you said love is not something you found, because you talk about falling in love, but it's something that you make every day. You make love every day, and it's a choice to make that every day. So you have someone come to you, you have people come to you and they're in marriage crisis. How do you get them to stop pointing the finger at the other person and to start to take responsibility for how they may be being in their relationship?
Well, one of the ways is to just elaborate on the very idea that I shared with you a few minutes ago about the key to turning a marriage around. In other words, in just the way you were nodding and saying was bringing goosebumps, because what I was saying is it's self-evident. Like, it's just true and we know it. So, but we just haven't been exposed to the approach. And so part of what I do is, I mean, I just gave you like a couple of minute executive summary, but somebody who comes to me in private sessions, or I do full day intensives, or they join the marriage fitness program, I spend, like a couple of hours really drilling down into that idea and explaining why going backwards into the problems doesn't work and why moving forward and making new things right does work. And I just drill down and really explain it thoroughly with examples and metaphors to the point where people just get it. It's like, yes, this is right. This is true. And if I want to succeed, this is the path I have to go on.
Can you share one of those metaphors?
Okay. So two come to mind. I don't know, just pick one, or maybe I'll share both. If you're trying to do a deal, like you're in the business community and you're trying to do a deal, and there are multiple issues interfering with the deal getting done, you could call your respective attorneys and meet in a boardroom and try to hammer out those issues. But just listen to the metaphor, hammer out. Sounds painful, sounds difficult, sounds harsh, sounds like we're
confrontational.
And it sounds like we're opposed to each other, which is going to make it difficult for us to get these issues ironed out. There's another approach, which we know works very well, which is let's leave the attorneys in their offices and let's go out to lunch. Let's you and I go out to lunch. Let's talk. Why do you want to get this deal done? By the way, you mentioned to me that your 13-year-old is taking tennis lessons in a tournament. Tell me a little bit about that. And where'd you go to college? Tell me about yourself. If we can leave that lunch feeling more connected, feeling safer with each other, with a higher level of trust, and wanting to do the deal, then we'll go back to our attorneys and we'll say, I want this deal done, get this worked out.
Very different, very, very different conversation.
It's a very different conversation. It's a very different process. And so, and that's why if you go to Manhattan or any big city, these restaurants are packed to the gills during lunchtime.
Right.
And they're packed to the gills with business people, because that's where the wheels of business interaction are greased. And it's the same in our personal relationship. The problem with many marriages is people don't want to do the deal. They don't really want to do the deal. So all the attention and focus is on the problems and issues. But if you don't want to do the deal to begin with, you're not going to give 1 inch unless I get everything I want. So there's
again, when you're talking about the deal is first, I'm committed to saving the marriage, not getting my checklist done first.
Yeah, I would say that's true. I would say it a little differently. The deal is, I want to be with you. I want to be with you. Okay, there's issues. Okay, we're not 100%, but like at the core, over, in general, I want to be with you. I want to spend my life with you. There's a lot to work with here. I want to do the deal. Okay, now we got some issues to work through.
I just went through this in my own relationship, in our own counseling specifically, and we were brought to the same exact place. Do you want to be together? What is the most? And it took a lot of work to get to that. It actually didn't take a lot of work to get to the love part, but there was a piece that you just mentioned in what you said. There was the trust issue. So when you have the lawyers in the room, it's because you don't trust the other person. You don't, and you think the lawyers are going to look out for your interests. And what you said was, when you have lunch and when you're having that dialogue, you start to develop trust. So I imagine with the people that you help, rebuilding that level of trust is paramount.
100%. Yeah, especially in cases of infidelity, which unfortunately are too many cases. I want to just give you another quick example, though. Many people middle age have issues with their lower back, which I do actually. If you go to a knowledgeable doctor, many of them will tell you to do sit-ups. Sit-ups. Doc, you misunderstand. It's my back, not my stomach. No, I know. Do stomach exercises, because strengthening one part of your body often helps heal another. So too in our marriage. Very often what hurts is a distraction from where the work really has to be done. And when you do the work that really has to be done, that is positive relationship habits that build a core connection, then very often that ends up healing the other parts of our relationships without us even really trying. One of my students, I can't take credit for this line, one of my students said it beautifully and poetically. He said, I get it. He said, the problems don't actually get resolved. They just dissolve. And that's 100%.
That's profound. That they stop being so loud and just fade. They become unimportant, because what's important is the love, the connection, and the thing we both want to build. Very profound. This is amazing. So let's shift gears a little bit. By the way, I'm going to put links in the show notes. Mort's website is chock full of resources and all kinds of things. You can get lost in there for hours without ever even spending a dime, and then you'll want to throw your money at him if you're having marriage problems, I promise you. But we were talking before the show about how transforming your marriage and really building your relationship helps you outside of the house, helps you in business, helps you in all other areas in your life.
Yeah.
And like I said, I often have trouble convincing people that they are all connected. And it's something that you focus on.
100%. I mean, our marriage, I prefer not to look at it as an aspect of our life. I prefer to look at it as kind of the pool inside of which all aspects of our life swim. And so when it's healthy and thriving, then we're breathing, I'm sorry, I'm mixing metaphors, but we're breathing that air, so to speak. And everything else just flows. I mean, when you're really connected, and people that have been married for a long time have a hard time remembering this, but try to remember back to when you were really connected. I mean, in love. People think that's unrealistic in a marriage. It's not unrealistic at all. But remember back to when you were really connected. I mean, in love, your eyes were glowing. You had a hop in your step. You had extra energy. You didn't need so much sleep. I mean, it is a life-transforming experience. And anybody who's ever been in love, which we all have, knows that that's the case. The problem is that experience just fades for everybody, and we assume that it's unrealistic.
By the way, naturally, right? It fades naturally. It's not like something's wrong because it fades. It's just the ebb and flow.
You really watched every video.
I've also lived life, right?
Yeah, no, 100% accurate. Yeah, and so I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
I do that. I do that to people.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Let's go back to. So for me, my own experience with this is, hot and heavy, wonderful relationship, in love for years, and then, like things just tapered off to all of a sudden it was cold, and we were angry and distrustful, and there was no infidelity. There was none of that stuff. Just little hurts over the years, and I was busy with my kids and my career and all this stuff. And now we've done a lot of what you're talking about, really reconnecting with the love, really refining. And what I notice is that, and I could cry talking about this, is I know how to be in love. I know how to walk away. I didn't know how to build intimacy. I didn't know how to go to that next level that you're talking about. And now that I'm now walking that walk or swimming in those waters of, this is intimacy, and how hard it is for a human ego to actually surrender to that and to that intimacy. I wonder if you can you talk about that journey from being in love to now we're have trouble to what is next? It's not being in love again. It's something different.
Let's talk about it by analyzing what you just said, because it was very profound. And I want to just try to drill down a little deeper into what you just said in order to maybe make it a little bit more concrete for people. So you said, I know how to fall in love, which everybody understands what that experience is. And the truth is, if we were honest with ourselves, falling in love is not something that you really need to know how to do. Like, that may not be the best expression to describe falling in love, because falling in love is just this natural, spontaneous experience. It doesn't really take any know-how. It doesn't take any wisdom or skill or knowledge. I mean, think about it. It happens to everybody, regardless of anything, other factor. I mean, everybody has the experience. It's natural, it's spontaneous. And you said, I know how to walk away, right? When the love fades, when the love fails, so that doesn't feel good, and we're vulnerable to running, and particularly running into somebody else's arms where we have the fall in love experience again all over again, which in our minds just validates, see, there must have been something wrong with that relationship because I was able to replicate this love experience.
And I will say guilty is charged, and now now the whole thing is revealed to me, but guilty is charged. Go on.
Eventually, though, you get to a certain age and you look back on a certain amount of relationship roadkill and you start to realize that the one thing that all these relationships had in common was me. And I'll just keep repeating that same cycle over and over again unless I learn, back to your phrase, how to build intimacy. Because it really is something how to do, which I referred to earlier when I talked about arguing a case, shooting a jump shot. There's a skill there. There are principles and practices that if you align with them, so you build intimacy, and if you violate them, you destroy the intimacy. And most of us are just winging it. We have no idea what those principles and practices are. But just as they exist in a jump shot or arguing case or an operating room, so too they exist in our marriage. And learning what they are dramatically increases your chances of succeeding in your marriage, which gets back to the phrase, the key to succeeding in marriage is not finding the right person, it's becoming the right person. It's learning to love the person that you found, educating yourself, becoming knowledgeable about those skills and employing them in your marriage. So in case this might be sounding too abstract, let me give a specific example. Now, there are dozens and dozens of these principles and practices. You know, if shooting a jump shot is not going to be simple, certainly God is not going to make something like marriage much more rewarding simple either. So there are dozens and dozens of principles and practices. So this is just one example, but it gives a little meat to these bones. Inevitably in a marriage, we become disappointed, disillusioned, upset, frustrated, something happens. Most of us respond to that by criticizing, condemning, or complaining. We mean well, but it never works, and it never will. So I talk about these as the 3 C's: criticize, condemn, and complain. And my advice, I mean, it's not really mine, I mean, this is just the reality of marriage and relationships, is very simple. Don't do it. We have to eradicate the 3 C's: criticize, condemn, and complain from our marriage. And I picked this one as an example because in 99.9% of the cases, everybody can relate to it as something that they're violating. And in 99.9% of the cases, they're violating it not because they're evil, not because they're trying to destroy their relationship, not because they're trying to make their spouse feel 1 inch tall. They actually mean well. They just don't know. It's like the kid who's shooting a jump shot with 2 hands like this. They mean well also, but it's not going to go in. Never. And by the way, it's worth pointing out, it doesn't really matter how much you practice. If you're practicing the wrong thing, you'll just get good at failing.
So what do you replace the 3 C's with?
That's another question. It's a good question, but just before we go there, regardless of the answer to that question, one shouldn't think that I need an answer to that question in order to refrain from the 3 C's. But I'm happy to answer the question.
But I am hopelessly human. And
And
I know the answer for myself because I've been through this, right? So I know the answer for myself, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Sure.
Because if I'm listening in the car, I'm like, wait a second. If I don't criticize and if I don't complain, like, how do I get through to this person?
So before I answer the question, though, just another 15 seconds on the point I was just making, which is that it's already a whole new level in your marriage if you can exercise restraint. If you can refrain from doing destructive things, you've already improved your situation. Doesn't take away from your question. Your question is important, and I have answers, and it's important I answer the question. But I just wouldn't want people to get confused. You've already accomplished something if you can exercise restraint and not use the 3 C's. Okay, so let's say I've exercised restraint, but I'm still disappointed, I'm frustrated, I'm angry. What do I do with that, right? So there's many answers. I'll just pick one just as an example. I call it kind of like remember when. Whatever it is that you're upset about, frustrated with, whatever it is you want your spouse to do that they're not doing, remember when they did it right and make a big deal out of that. Do you remember last month when, we were away and I was lying down and you came up and you were just rubbing the back of my neck? And I didn't ask, you just did it, upon your own initiative. And it wasn't 2 seconds, like you really sat with me like you had nowhere else to go and that I was the focus of your attention. I've been thinking about that. And did you know that made my week? Like, I've been thinking, it really just was so amazing, right? So you're creating an opportunity for your spouse to be your hero. nobody likes to respond to criticism because the best I can do is meet your expectations, which is not very fulfilling.
Right.
But if I can be your hero, I can make your week, I can make you light up, that's enticing. I'm much more likely to be responsive. So
Goosebumps again, man. Goosebumps again. That's really, and by the way, what you're talking about is a learned skill. It's a muscle, right? Because the knee-jerk reaction is to complain and criticize, and the muscle, the consciousness to bring to the conversation that it takes is a practice.
100%. That is one of the main points I hope is getting through to your audience, and that I try to communicate to my audience every day, is if we could just be deliberate about the way we're behaving in our marriage, we'd be so much better off. But of course, we have to know what to be deliberate about. Like you said, I'm just repeating what you said, just in different words. It's a learned skill, no different than anything else. But unfortunately, Hollywood has convinced us that it is different. Love is a mystery, and you have to be lucky. You don't have to be lucky. You have to be smart.
You have to be smart, and I think willing to work, right? You're just willing to work and willing to put something ahead of yourself for a few minutes to be able to get out of yourself in order to be able to create something. I think the relationship thing is being created every day. And it's funny because I never would have thought, with all the skill and all the work I've done and all the therapy I've been in and all the consciousness raising, I never would have thought that I would actually need to consciously work on my relationship and work on myself in relationship as hard as I did. And on the flip side of that, I never knew the rewards of that intimacy. I didn't know what I didn't know. Like, I didn't know intimacy existed until I tasted intimacy with the person I was so angry at that I wanted to leave. Right? So what you're offering people is not just fixing a marriage. You're offering them a gift that they don't even know exists.
Yeah, 100%. One of the first things I often teach people, and one of the first things I often do with people, whether it's in private sessions or in the program, is I help them reestablish the goal. Like, let's get clear on what we're trying to accomplish here, because very often people come to me and they're trying to save their marriage. No, I'm not interested in helping you save your marriage. I want to help you transform your marriage and experience deep connection from now until the day you die. And it's a different objective. It's a different goal. It's not a quick fix thing. And it's not trying to, just solve a crisis or a problem. It's about really getting to the core of our need for closeness and connection. I mean, at the root of our being, that is what we most desire, is to be connected to another person.
I couldn't agree more. So if people want more of you, like I said, I'm going to put all the links in the show notes. But what is the best way to engage with you?
So you can go to my website, mortfertel.com. I actually have a special page set up for your audience, mortfertel.com/masteringmidlife. And I offer a free report there, 7 Secrets to Fixing Your Marriage, as you mentioned, and thank you for mentioning it.
I love that. Seven Secrets to Fixing My Marriage. By the way, I'm not interested in fixing your marriage. I'm interested in transforming your. I guarantee you that these aren't things that are going to fix your marriage. I guarantee you these are substantive things that transform your marriage.
Thank you.
Not aptly named, I'm sure.
So there's a lot of free information on my website, as you mentioned, the free report and the videos, and you can get more information about me and the private sessions and the full-day intensive house calls and the Marriage Fitness Teleboot Camp, which is the most popular program. And links to all my social media channels from my website as well.
So yeah, I want to put a plug for that because I got lost on your website. And I'm not looking like I'm now in the transformative part of my relationship. So I was still fascinated, and I was like, he's right. He's so right. This is good. This is so good. So I'm putting my good housekeeping seal of approval on everything that you're putting out in the world. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your gold and your gifts with me and my audience.
You're welcome. And thank you very much.
I had so much fun. I have so much fun in this conversation. I could actually probably talk to you for hours. And by the way, I do love the just stillness and the focus of you and the ricochet rabbit of me. It's if you watch the video, it's going to be a fun dynamic. So again, thank you, and I will send people your way. To everybody else, I really thank you for your precious time and attention. I value it tremendously. I love you, and have a great rest of the day.